Oh,
All right, what's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? Seamus and Marcos in the house. We got Katie Bonarrigo in the house, or better known as Shift with Katie. Um, Guys, Katie's super awesome. We actually work together. I work part-time at BOD, where they do like diagnostics for health, and BOD is called like body overview data systems, basically understanding yourself. And but Katie also has an online coaching platform that helps burnt out people, especially overwhelmed women, as she's a health coach, and she's done everything from being a personal trainer to a digestive gut health specialist to everything underneath the sun in terms of what it looks like to be in optimal health. um, but yeah, Katie, why don't you kind of maybe short clip elevator pitch, like who you are, what got you into the health field, and then I'll let Marcos take away some questions that are more like dense. We got short time today, so maybe just going kind of deep into your like coaching system, if that is cool.
yeah, of course. I'm Katie. I'm so grateful to be here. It's great chatting with you guys. I am a holistic health coach, and I primarily focus on helping burnt out, overwhelmed women regulate their nervous system so that they can reclaim their energy, live life with ease, all the things that we want but struggle to accomplish on our own. So I hold people accountable. I make personalized plans for them. And I got into it just through my own health journey. I was like scheduled for hip surgery. I thought that, I mean, I do have like anatomical abnormalities in my hips, and I could have surgery if I wanted to, but what I realized through working with holistic practitioners before it became a thing was that like what my pain was just a manifestation of my stress. It wasn't actually like my structural issues that were causing the majority of my symptoms. And just so through like corrective exercise and diaphragmatic breathing and stress management and all of those things, I was able to avoid surgery. And I was like, there have to be so many other women in a similar boat, whether it's chronic pain is their manifestation of stress, or it's gut issues, or it's just overall stress getting stuck in that fight or flight. I was like, I need to help people start to slow down, start to down regulate, so that they can be happier and more fulfilled. That's about it.
Quite the quite the niche. I actually feel like it's kind of grown in popularity, which I don't think is a good thing in a sense,
Yeah.
but I think it just kind of speaks to the times that we're in. And like you just said, like kind of the holistic healing has definitely gained a lot of traction probably in the last decade. I feel like it's like been kind of synonymous for me with like just nutrition coaching as a whole. So I definitely resonate with that. And my first question to you, Katie, is, I mean, so obviously like people be stressed out. I mean, obviously for you, it's like women in like specifically, right? You do. Or I guess first question is like, do you also coach men, or do you find that this is more female leading for your?
More geared towards women, but I do have some male clients as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I primarily
Okay.
focus on women. But everybody's stressed. You're certainly right about that.
Yeah. So then, okay, like obviously, without giving away like IP and like all that good stuff, right? What would an experience kind of be like? How do you kind of assess stress levels of individuals and helping them then kind of clear it out? What are some of like the big movers for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do an intake form for people, and I do track their outcomes like quantitatively, more so just like quality of life questionnaires and things like that in terms of how they would rate their stress levels, how they would rate their mood, their energy, their sleep, things like that. Then we do like a deep dive 45-minute discovery call, make sure it's a good fit. And then everybody kind of has the same general outline for the most part in terms of like starting with the foundational piece of regulating your nervous system, managing stress, but also getting active, having movement be like a cornerstone of your daily lifestyle, daily practice. Resting, kind of just generally like broadening the definition of rest. I think we all have like, we're averse to rest because we're like, I can't rest until I'm done with this to-do list that's never ending, and then I'm never going to rest and things like that. And it's like, I don't need you to like sleep 14 hours in a day or take a 2-hour nap, but I do need you to like do something that doesn't involve your phone or a screen, or something that's going to really like nourish you mentally and physically. And then there is also like a mindfulness, self-compassion component. I think more so for women, they tend to be incredibly hard on themselves, and they're burnt out to the point of like they're at their breaking point and they still feel like they're not doing enough. And so I'm trying to help them kind of rewrite the narrative alongside all of those more like practical, tangible, holistic tools.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So then, like, is it a lot of breath work? Is there like other kind of things that are stimulating it, like cold plunges or like heat therapy, or like what does it look like? Like, I want to reduce my stress. Like, what are your like big pillars or big key movers?
So I would say like bare minimum breath work and nature every day. And it doesn't have to be like, I think breath work can be intimidating for a lot of people. Like, I'm talking like 2 minutes when you wake up before you get out of bed, maybe when you sit down at your desk after you have lunch, and then like while you're in bed before you try to fall asleep. A bunch of different combinations that are more appropriate for any given time, but like just little things like the physiological sigh. If you do 5 rounds of that, you're activating your vagus nerve, you're activating your parasympathetic or rest and digest system. And it just helps you like approach the day or approach whatever task you're facing with a more clear, focused mind. So that's definitely a foundational piece of it. I kind of treat it like we have to treat stress like or manage stress proactively and reactively. So like those are some of my proactive measures. In an ideal world, I would love it to be like 5 little times throughout the day. I also think, like I said, too, just spending time in nature, even if it's like 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning, I think that's huge because not only is being out in nature reducing your cortisol levels, but it's also helping regulate your circadian rhythm. So like the release of cortisol and melatonin becomes aligned with nature. And that's usually important, as we know, just for energy and sleep, of course. Um, Cold plunges are huge. A lot of people are somewhat averse to cold plunges, but even like a 10-second cold shower or like dunking your face in a bowl of ice water, that's really good for like completing the stress cycle. What are some of my others? I mean, again, I come back to
Before you move, Katie, before you move, the nature thing. The first
yeah,
time I met Katie, guys, I didn't even meet Katie. I walked by her. So Bod is at the intersection of Venice and like Main Street, and it's like 2 blocks to the beach. And before my shift at like 9 a.m., I wasn't shifting with Katie yet, but I was before my shift. I went to the beach and I did a because I just did like a Tony Robbins thing, and there's like this meditation thing with it. So it was like a 15-minute meditation, like a coherence hearing. So I went there. I noticed this lady walking by me. It was you, and we eyed each other. But I was like, I think you knew that I was me because like maybe Jeff had mentioned it, and I was obviously wearing our uniform, and I was like, I think that might be her. Anyways, I'm gonna go to nature now, and I love that your content. You do a lot of content on the beach in Venice or Santa Monica area. For those listening in Southern California, and that nature piece is obviously super accessible to you. You got that beach right there. But yeah, honestly, if someone can get outside for a little bit, it doesn't have to be perfect nature like the beautiful beach. Maybe just outside seeing the
right.
sun. I know I do that. I try to get a little bit of that in. I know Marcos has done that in the breath work a little bit. That's been the nature is profoundly underrated. I think it's the breath work, like you said, I think breath work you can do it like breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's there. But nature, like it just doesn't really get its I don't think it gets its time of day. I think it's really underrated. I mean, maybe just that's how I see it.
No, I totally agree. And like most people don't know this, but being in nature for 20 minutes can reduce your cortisol levels by 20%. Like 20%. That's pretty significant when we're all living up here, overstimulated, overregulated, etc. So yeah, like you said, like I usually have my clients like first thing when they wake up in the morning before they grab their phone, go outside, take a glass of water, sit in the sun for 5 minutes. If it's cloudy, maybe give it 10 minutes. And it doesn't matter where you are, if you're in the middle of a city or not, just being outside in the fresh air is super helpful. I think taking a lunch break outside can be super beneficial just because the change of scenery is helpful as a little reset, refresh. But again, spending a little bit more time outside is great. And then like at night, again, after work, I'm saying all of these in like breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I think one of the easiest ways to build a habit is to stack it onto something that you're already doing. So, like, we know you're going to take a lunch break. just take it outside. And then when you come back in, when you sit at your desk, that's your cue to do your breath work to get you ready and geared up for the rest of the day. I also really like any sort of somatic work, like shaking it out, doing progressive muscle relaxation. There are like less kind of involved things that I have my clients do that are like at the office. Like bilateral eye movement stimulates the vagus nerve, humming stimulates the vagus nerve, like any tiny little thing that you can do just to shift down ever so slightly can go a long way, because over time, all of them add up. So it's really about like, how many of those things can we get you to incorporate in your daily life sustainably for the long term is really the ultimate goal.
Man, there's been a big shift in a lot of those things for me over the past, when was it? 23 years. Like 3 years deep into this kind of really huge change into the habits that I think need to be a part of my day versus the ones that were there, prior to like 2020 and the pandemic and, those moments. And it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that I kind of poo-pooed as a coach early on are now like integrated, like to a level that like I'm actually like kind of surprised. Like I'm kind of like laughable because I feel like it's laughable. And it was literally like the crux of my conversation with one of our patients yesterday. And I like literally opened with the question. I was like, all right, let's talk about your work environment. You're not seeing your weight loss goal happen as quickly as you'd like. What's going on at work? What does that look like? And I was like, yeah, I mean, what is your desk? Like, I'm just trying to get a leg of the land of his environment. Knowing like now, like people spend 40 hours a week, probably bare minimum, at a desk in the same room for however many years, depending on the career path that they choose. This individual happens to be like a financial analyst. So I know, it's a desk-bound job. So it's like, oh, I have a standing desk. I was like, oh, awesome. Step one already completed. Stand up, right? But then step two was like, have you ever thought about getting a walking pad? And he was like blown away. He's like, those exist? What is that? And I was like, yeah, it's great. It's like, there's many models, but I would just buy like a cheapy one and then like reward yourself with like the creme de la creme, if you find yourself utilizing it, to that level in the future. And he was like, absolutely, already bought it. It's already done. You know what I mean? And like you just said, like stacking the habits in areas that are going to be kind of already being done is again another way of like trying to do that. I was like, yeah, hey, by the way, like, are you taking a lunch break? All right, cool. But 10 minutes after that, like just replying to some emails, you're getting ready for the next call. Does that sound doable? And like you can just massively like move the needle for people, especially if like their number one goal is like weight loss, right? It's like, well, I mean, you already sound like you got the food in check to a good, like to a level that I feel comfortable with. Sounds like you ain't moving enough, man. And the idea of the habit stacking and building up, those integral parts that like everybody's got to eat. So like let's try to time things in that domain. That being outside. I mean, Seamus knows this. Like most of the time, we're probably chatting on mornings. Like Monday and Friday, like those are like long walk or activities, outdoor days for me. And that was a massive shift before where I was like, I need 7 days of like getting into the gym, and I feel like those 2 days have actually moved the needle far more for me recently than they have, all those years of like just going to the gym an extra day 6 or day 7. So yeah, people need to get outdoors more, and I'm all for it, Katie. But you did say one other thing that really interests me. Sighing, yawning. What did you say? Like five sighs? What? How do I do that?
Humming. Oh, I was saying the physiological sigh. So basically, you take a deep inhale and then a sharp inhale and then a longer exhale. It's by far my favorite breathwork technique. Like, just because it's so simple and you don't really have to count, and you can even like do it when you're sitting there in a stressful situation with someone. So you just like breathe in through your belly and then up through your nose and then long exhale. And do that like 5 or 6 times and you'll at least be down regulated at a minimum of 10%.
Oh man. Is it good to do that before you eat? Do you have people do that before they eat? Or like, is that like kind of like the number one thing to do? Like obviously you said kind of like, I mean, obviously being in rest and digest mode is like how to trigger that. Cause I remember there was another, I mean, he's a bodybuilding coach, but like it was really interesting to hear how many bodybuilding coaches use a lot of these kind of holistic practices. And I'm like, scratching my head. I'm like, where's the secret sauce to this stuff? Like, what are they giving these people to get these extra results? And a lot of them are like, hey, like tally marking stress indicators, right? Like how many times a day you feel like you just kind of upregulated and you feel off, like you're stressed out about something. And then they just would count that. It's like, all right, you're at 20, that's your baseline. Can we get you down to like 17? And then they just like try to slowly figure that out. Also, the kind of like easy breath work before the meals, just to, again, be ready to absorb nutrients. Like, I'm like, how much can that really matter? But again, 10, 20% differences, after an entire week, I mean, and then compounded over 3 to 6 months, it's probably a massive improvement. So after hearing a lot of those people say those things, and then you obviously coming in from a slightly different angle, why are we all finding a way to a very similar outcome with helping people?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder. There are many different ways to skin the cat, and I think sometimes too, like obviously that person has a particular niche. It's like he has jack dudes on his Instagram. You know what I mean? Like those are the people that seek him out, and also women that are doing like bikini or IFBB pros. That type of clientele is not going to be something that like you're going after. Your people, I mean, they might be in there, but I highly doubt that, right? Like that's not necessarily the people that you're attracting, but yet you're doing something similar. It's really interesting to kind of
I wanted to ask that, Katie. Like with the woman, you kind of said something back where I was like, dang, that was like the hardest mic drop moment. Not in a disrespectful way. Like it was like very like it's kind of opening a door and like a comment here of like you said, women are at their wits end. I think it's something along the lines of like they're at their wits end doing everything day to day, yet they don't feel like they're doing enough. Like what's that about? Like as a woman, like maybe you could speak on your experience or maybe just on your client's experience. Like when they're coming to you, like what are they saying like on that concept?
It's a good question. I think it's a little bit different for everyone, but I think a lot of it comes down to social media. I think we all put so much pressure on ourselves to do better and to be better. And the reality is like the pressure a lot of time isn't serving us. Like it's just making us feel worse. It's not like I understand like tough love, there's a time and a place, but after like 30 years of trying to beat yourself into working out or eating healthy or doing whatever, like it's just you're tired. Like you're just tired and there's not a whole lot that you can do. And I think like a lot of women like compare themselves to other people on social media and they're like, oh, this person has a 9 to 5 and they still have like a bodybuilder, but like, how is that even possible? I must not be doing enough. And also, I just think like the expectations for women are incredibly high in terms of everything that we're expected to manage. I mean, we don't need to go through a laundry list of like how hard it is for women to exist in society in 2024. I think we're all pretty well aware of it. But I think that it's just it's also hard because the to-do list truly is never ending, and so it's about like not 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 waiting to rest or take a break or slow down until everything's done. Like rest isn't earned, it's a right. We need to rest scientifically in order to function and in order to thrive. So I think like for women a lot of the time we just like go 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 and we're like, I'll just rest after this, I'll take a break after this, and it's like that never ends up happening. And then we're just in this constant cycle. We're like on that hamster wheel of I can't even get a breath of fresh air because I don't have 5 seconds. And it's like we have to make it a priority. We all prioritize different things. And I think like for men and women alike, a lot of us, like at the end of the day, I'm sure you guys have heard like revenge sleep procrastination, and even not even necessarily in the context of sleep, but like when you go your whole day trying to like serve others and be a good employee and be a good friend and be a good partner and do all of these things, you get home and you just want to like veg out on the couch and like scroll on social media or binge watch TV. And I do think there's a time and a place for those activities, but I think like they're not really nourishing your body physically or mentally. It's just like a way for you to numb out and not deal with like any sort of emotion. So I think like shifting the narrative a little bit, and like I said, there is a time and a place. Like maybe you allot like 30 minutes for that, and then you go, okay, I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to cook a new recipe, or I'm going to stretch, or I'm going to do something that's really like nourishing me and fueling me on a deeper level than like mindlessly doing something in front of a screen.
That's actually a great answer. One of my favorite thought leaders of all time is Brene Brown. I cut my teeth into this field by personal training at like 18, 19. about like, 10 plus years ago. And I could not connect with women. I'm an 18-year-old dude. And one of my mentors, he really connected with women really well. Chad Skaderstu, shout out to him. He told me to read that book. And most of the people that we coach were women. And, I don't have a woman's experience, but I have a single mom. I've seen what she does. And it's crazy. It's crazy what women can do and will do, because they're putting others in front of them. They're putting their work in front of them. In the 2024, where it's like, not only do you have to be the boss ass bitch, CEO, slay, and be the mom, and make it look good on social media, and have the body, like, I see these things not, I see these things in my personal life, and I see these with like patients and clients. I love what you said there. Like, rest is a right. It's not it's not something you just, hey, it's just an afterthought. Do you make, I know like in your schedule, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner and stuff like that, but like when you have that conversation, let's say with like a high performing woman, do you like do an audit on their schedule and go like, yo, why does every single hour need to be filled? Have you ever asked that question with someone and found like an answer or like a recurring mindset? Because I've seen that with high performing men. I just had a conversation today with like a 26-year-old guy who is killing it. He's like super lean. He's shredding. He's like, Seamus, why do I feel like in 24 hours I wake up, I look like shit? Then I look like a Greek god after I do an arm day. But then I eat lunch and then I'm bloated. And then at the end of the day, I'm like good to go. And I'm like, welcome to the razor's edge. Like, welcome to like
Right.
what it means to be at the top. I was telling that to Marcos too. Even myself, I feel that sometimes where it's like I go through ebbs and flows. But in terms of like the calendar, like why do you feel people have to fill it up? Like especially with like high performing women, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a mindset thing. Again, interestingly enough, like I have a client who is a creative director at like one of the biggest agencies in the country, and she's also a mom of two kids under 4. And so she has this internal battle of being like, I need to prove to everybody at work that I can be a mom and still be a high performer. So she ends up trying to work until like 2 or 3 a.m. And so I just one day I said to her, I go, do you have to work until 2 or 3 a.m.? Like, is your job expecting you to do that? Or are you doing that on your own? And she was like, oh, no one's forcing me to do that. I'm choosing to do that because I want to prove myself. And we're working on it. She's still not there yet. I mean, she's not necessarily working until 2 or 3 a.m., but it's definitely a balance. It's almost like something that I love to tell my clients a lot of the time is like, when your brain likes comfort and safety, right? So anytime you do something that's not the norm, it's going to fight back against you. And so it's like, okay, we've established that this pattern of you working until 2 a.m. to try to prove yourself isn't serving you, your family, or your job, because the quality of work that you're producing at 2 a.m. has got to be shit. And so, okay, let's try to reframe this, or let's try to change something. Even if we're not going to try to go to bed at 9 p.m., that would be too big of a jump. Let's maybe cut the time off at 12. And so the point that I'm making is that acknowledge that discomfort is going to come up when 12 o'clock hits and you go to shut your computer off, knowing that your brain is going to fight against you because you're doing something different than what you normally do. I think can kind of help prepare you to confront that and say, okay, this is uncomfortable. This sucks. I really want to keep working, but I know I have to stop. It can work wonders. And I think the other piece of it is like having the accountability. Like they're going, all right, I have to stop because Katie said I have to stop at 12 o'clock and she's going to follow up with me tomorrow. So I need to make sure that I'm good. And then it's like, over time, it starts to become the norm. And then they don't need me to hold them accountable, of course. But I think that that's a really big piece of it. I'm trying to think of my other, it's interesting because I have another friend who is, or client rather, that's a creative director. And she similarly has an insanely packed schedule, and then she chooses to then fill her post work time with all of these sorts of social events. And again, it's just like, where is this coming from? Like, what is what is the purpose of this? Is it, do you need to have all of these back to back meetings? And like, if that's the case, great. We're going to find that 5 minutes that you have in between meetings 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6 to just down regulate. Like, I think a big piece of it is meeting people where they're at and recognizing like the same thing isn't going to work for everyone. So like, if you truly are back to back for 9 hours a day, where can we find little pockets to add in some like intentional stress management, basically?
Emotional grounding. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. I love that. I don't understand people like that personally, because I don't know. Like, I think this is the conundrum, right? Everybody wants to feed their ego quite a bit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
myself included, Seamus included. We all want to feel that because it's exciting, it's excitatory. The catecholamines, the whatever. But I had one of my early mentors mention, he's like, I'm gonna tell you one thing, and you need to learn this shit quick. And he likes his cuss words. Let me tell you. He was like, you gotta fucking cut it off. Like, there's no fucking macro emergency at 9 p.m. Just, just do it tomorrow. Like, learn to like create your boundaries. You know. Also, too, you have to learn how to create realistic expectations about like your turnaround time with things. And again, like with health coaching in general and all those things and any creative work and endeavor, there is literally no timeline. Like, you'll if you died tomorrow, then maybe you would never hit the timeline, obviously, but like it's always
Sure.
self-imposed. It's always us wanting to get to that thing and have it done so that there's like, I don't know, the accolade or the income or whatever. But when he had said that, like when I was like 21, I was like, interesting. Like, how am I going to make that work? You know, I've got all these new people that I'm like about to start working with. I've never made money before, so I don't like, you know what I mean? And then you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
chasing this dragon. And then nowadays it's like, there's some nights like I have to even mind my P's and Q's on like what I say to people. And I know Seamus and I were talking about this yesterday, maybe earlier today. I was like, I try not to say like, I'll get this to you by today, because then if I say that, it sets an expectation that I gotta get it done. I was like,
Right.
hey, I'll get this done to you as soon as possible. You know, I got a lot of things. I have a few things I need to take care of today, so hopefully I can get it to you, by tomorrow. You know, so that it feels like a realistic time-bound thing. But all those constraints are self-imposed. It's like you're saying, like, why are you working till 2 or 3 a.m.? Oh, because you need to have this illusion like you're a mom of 2 kids under 4 years old and you have all your stuff together. Yeah, people would say that, but they'd also be like, she's probably a little crazy, right? Like she's obviously like working way too much. And at the end of the day, I think we're all trying to chase the same thing. We're, money or any of those other things it's an energy exchange. Like, if you view everything as like energy, your own personal currency is energy, right? How much energy you can put into work, and then the money that you receive for that is energy that you can then go put into other forms of energy, literally gas for your car, food for your body to be nourished, right? Everything is literally energy at the end of the day. And yeah, where do you want to spend your energy? Do you want to have that many things on your own plate and your calendar, or do you also want to like try to give somebody else some energy, and give them something to like wake up for? So, I mean, I think that's the
That's a good point,
professional.
man.
Well, it's the professional
I
conundrum,
love
right,
it.
Yeah.
Seamus? Like,
Yeah, yeah. The boundaries was a big one, Marcos. I talked about this with my therapist the other day. I've never developed, I don't know if I've never developed, but it's a muscle that I'm flexing a little bit more now, is the boundaries, but with my language. She
yes,
literally just had me practice this. Literally this like line verbatim. Like, I hear what you're saying and I know it's really important. However, I am not available at this moment to handle this.
mm-hmm.
Let's reconvene this. And it was exactly what you're talking about, the professional thing, because I had this crazy day. I had something come up, like a fire, quote unquote, and I screwed myself in the pooch. Marcos was like, "Bro, you put yourself in a timeline, like, oh, let me get this." And I think one of the bigger ones is like, "Let me get this to you within the next few days, or like by the end of week. I
Yeah.
appreciate your patience on this endeavor, just because I have a high quality load in front of me."
Oh yeah.
And literally practicing that, dude, like, killer, right? Like, it was
It
was
gets
super.
easier
It
every
was so
time.
easy to say that, because I'm a person. There is a word in my head. I don't know if you guys ever watched Tron. I don't know if you ever watched Tron. The one
Disney's
with
Tron.
Disney's Tron.
Mm-hmm.
they say the word rectify in the movie, or there's a movie that says like rectify, and rectify just means like problem solve, right? And I'm like, man, I gotta rectify this situation. It's like, why do you have to, Seamus, why do you always have to problem solve a problem as soon as it comes up? Is it your problem? Is it, like Marco said, can someone be delegated to? Can you boundary it up? Like, tell them later. Like, yeah, that's something that like is again, I'm learning to flex that muscle, Marcos. Katie.
For sure. And I think like a key piece of it too is taking inventory. Like we say yes to everything because we want to make everybody happy and we want to produce and we want to be successful. And it's like, okay, but if you just took 2 seconds to be like, okay, do I really have the time and energy and capacity to add this onto my already full plate? Like you said, it allows you to make a more informed decision or set a more informed expectation, as opposed to just like reflexively being like, yep, I'll do it. Yep, I'll do it. I'll get it to you by the end of the day. It's like having the awareness and the intentionality to be like, okay, I'm going to take 2 seconds, take a deep breath, assess what's going on here and what's on my plate, and then make a decision. And I think like having a coach really helps people do that. Like we're so used to just reflexively, like I said, making decisions and doing whatever. But if we just slow down for 5 seconds, the world would be a better place.
I have a question for you though. I have a question for you. Remember that movie? Yeah, reflexive. You remember that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Yeah, like I feel like that movie was like the perfect. But like, can you say this? Because I know most people listening to this, like the people you're working with, are like high performers, primarily like in a job. Let's just say women with like jobs. Like, how do you work with someone then where saying yes, you know, let's just say they started young, like Marcos and I in a certain field at like 21, 18, 19, 21, where saying yes got them in the doors. Because it did for me. I know it got that for Marcos. Saying yes got them the job. Saying yes got them the income. Saying yes got them all the success. When does saying yes start becoming detrimental? When does saying yes become this weird thing? Because it's like, if I say yes to this, I mean, like, I think Ryan Holiday said something like this a long time ago. Maybe this is a good example. Maybe I'm trying to get to, but it's like saying yes to a $50,000 like speaking event or going to his kid's playoff baseball game. You know, like it's kind of like, where does yes fit into the mold of success? I guess, especially as you become more successful.
Well, it's a
really good.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I mean, that's a like, is the word paradigm the right word there? Like that type of like questioning of like, where is yes more important? I think it changes given your phase of life. I think like, I mean, here's the thing. I think I'll speak broadly here. 2020 changed a lot of things for me. I got to witness a lot of growth of both of my kids that most parents never have the opportunity to really, or the pleasure to really enjoy. But now I feel like it's almost the norm, right? I was like, man, that's so cool. I get to watch my kids every single day. I'm watching them literally grow up at this, like, you know, like these, I get to see the leaps that are on the app, you know, like I'm not watching it from afar. And now I feel like it's, you know, when I was saying yes, Seamus, to all these trips over the last like 2 years, you know, granted I'm on another
Was
one
it
right
like
now.
50 times in 50 times in the air last year? I know it was like 24 for me.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean it was 36 total trips, I think it was. So I mean, yeah, I mean if you count to and fro, right? So like I said yes to all those things, thinking it would lead to growth, and I took the yeses on in order to like hopefully get to like the next like step that then would allow for more free time. And when that like question came from Rudy, our boss, was like, you know, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I feel good. I feel like I can always do more. But then he offered me the opportunity to do less, and I said yes. I was like, it was the weird. It was like, again, it was like a relieving thing to say yes, but almost no. Like, no, I no longer have the capacity to handle 300 plus people, you know, like on my behalf, because I might be doing people a disservice. Yes, this is like for the betterment of other people we're working with, and yeah, it's so crazy how like that question like that you just said, like Ryan Holiday kind of went through or poses there. If it's to go to like my son's 5-year-old graduation and make 50 grand, I'm gonna go make the 50 grand. because I mean we need an award for everything these days, you know. And that literally happened. I was literally on a work trip, and my son graduated kindergarten. He's not gonna remember that shit. Like, oh, like he'll remember that like mom was there, brought me something. I got some candy, but like those other big, I mean, even at soccer practices, like I don't know how much of an impact that is. Like all the other parents are like literally on, you know, they're sitting there like attentively, just kind of watching. I'm like, you know, I want to watch from afar, but I'm also gonna like take care of me at the same time and start walking. And it's funny how like certain other parents have noticed that like that's how. Oh, my camera died.
Hold on. We got a little pause there, Marcos.
No, I know my camera stopped working.
No worries. Continue on. I think yeah, you're good, brother.
Okay. I'll have to switch back to the other camera. That's weird. But I've been walking around, and now some of the other parents are starting to walk because they notice like that's like the thing you do. So I'm like saying yes to like my activity, even though it's also yes to being there. And you know, like it's a God, those questions of like doing things for yourself and this idea of yes and no and boundaries, like I mean, yeah, like being someone that is like again uber professional to the calendar type of thing, like there's so much to go and unpack there, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, well, Katie, what do you let's see what Katie, what do you mean? Well, yeah, Katie, what about you, like in terms of what you see with burnt out women, like what they've been saying yes to, how it's been detrimental, and like how you've been able to make them shift?
I think I agree with Marco's line of thinking. I think that it's all about the season of life that you're in. I feel like for my clients specifically, like in the summer, they're going to say no to all like taking on any extra work projects and yes to all of their like social events and family time and time with loved ones and whatever, versus like in the fall and winter, I think people are like, okay, this is the time to like buckle down and say yes to everything and work up to my capacity, but not beyond it, and let social things fall to the wayside. Like, I think that you can get creative. I think it it depends on the type of person you are. It depends on what you value. I think that's what's so hard for women is like they're like, I value my career and my kids. I don't want to say that one is more important than the other. And to that I would just say like, you're right. Neither is, I mean, of course your family is obviously more important than your job. Sure. We can all agree on that. But like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that your family always has to come before your job. Like it's just going to come before your job right now in this particular instance. Like I think the black and white all or nothing thinking really does us all a disservice. Like it doesn't have, both things can exist. Your job can be important and your family life and your family themselves can also be equally as important. And I think it's just like, again, I come back to taking inventory. Check in with yourself, sit, do a quick body scan and go, how does it make me feel to say yes to this $50,000 speaking engagement, whatever it is? Like if I feel great and lit up and this is going to launch my career in a new direction and I'm going to be able to better provide for my family, then great. Like then it seems like it's a yes, but only you can really make that like soul-centered decision, I think, and it's going to depend on the day of the week, it's going to depend on the month of the year, et cetera, et cetera.
There's no right or wrong decision. It's just it's the intentionality of which you're choosing. Like you just said, it's like these man, like these things, like, you know, it's gonna change. And I think that's like been the beauty of like being a parent here is like, God, I feel like I'm never gonna get out of this thing. And then the next quarter is like, God, like there's this new thing. And God, I kind of miss some of that old shit because I don't like all this new shit. Like,
right.
And currently there was this little phase, which thank God it was like a very quick live, where my daughter just like sits over there with her blanket, like not wanting to go to bed. It needs to like have perfection to like how it like lays across it, like would wake me up. I was like, all right, I had to sleep with my son just because he needs somebody there. And daughter's doing this weird thing. This like it was like 2 weeks ago, and my wife literally like go and check on her at like it's like 2 a.m. She's like, you better take your daughter because I am about to effing kill her. She doesn't let me sleep. You know, I'm feeling sleep deprived. I'm like, God, is this the new phase? Is this you know, is this Q3 of 2024? My daughter won't go to sleep.
Is this Ari's thing, not letting your mom sleep?
Oh yeah,
that's so funny.
So then, if this is like the ongoing like coaching relationship for you and your clients, Katie, where you're really like unpacking a lot of these things that are, I mean, really, I mean, would you say it's almost like kind of like somatic coaching in a sense too. Like I know that word's been thrown around a lot by
Yeah, I
certain
was gonna
coaches.
ask that, Marcos. The somatic, what you meant like by somatic, and like
Yeah.
there was another term. You said like something like muscle reflexive, continuous
Progressive
reflexive, something
muscle
like.
relaxation.
Yeah. It's something I learned in our ABHC, Marcos. Remember that was like a term, but we never went into it. Would you mind
No,
going
yeah,
into it?
yeah.
I don't know.
So I'll start with the easier one. Progressive muscle relaxation is like, it's a technique that was developed by a psychologist who was treating like war veterans who were dealing with PTSD. And basically, there are like a couple different ways that you can do it, but you essentially just like squeeze either all of your muscles as tight as you can for 10 seconds and then release them. Or you could do it like body part by body part and get really specific. Like you do your toes and then you do your feet and then you do your calves and then your thighs and whatever. And throughout that process, again, it's just all about like stimulating your vagus nerve, activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So that is like a somatic work is anything essentially relating to the body. So
Okay.
like breathing could technically be somatic. Progressive muscle relaxation is a somatic technique. Like the bilateral eye movement that I was saying is like you put your hands behind your head and just look side to side without turning your head. You can do like an auricular ear release where you like, I have headphones in, so I can't do it, but like you basically just massage the inner part of your ear. Um,
Hmm.
Anything along those lines is classified as somatic. I think like the boundaries and the saying yes and the seasons of life is more of the unpacking the mindset piece of it and like really shifting people's narrative and even just bringing awareness to it. I think like a lot of people don't even realize how much they're the reason that they're running themselves into the ground. Like we said, it's all self-imposed. No one is like, you have to work 45 hours in one day. Like you're choosing, okay, there aren't 45 hours in a day, but you understand my point. Like it's all self-imposed because we have this idea of what success means. And I think like redefining that is hugely impactful for people.
Mm. It's funny you mentioned that like progressive muscle relaxation technique because I've never like thought about it, but like there's instances where if I'm sitting around and I'm trying to relax, like I will subconsciously like flex a muscle group, like you just said, and like just like kind of hold that flex for a little bit, and then try to see if I can like have like my mind actually feel that area because like I don't have the ability to wiggle all my toes on my left foot. I think like all three of my middle toes move in unison. So I'm always like wondering like why can't I like just articulate each one like my fingers. And so like it got me like really interested like trying to figure out how to like get certain like was like why does that muscle like not work? But then it's also like I don't know, my wife always is like you could just fall asleep like whenever. I was like yeah, like I mean I think about a few things or like I kind of like think about like where my body is and have like almost I wonder if this is also like something like as an only child you can do a little bit more. um you have these moments where like you're there, you're kind of existing, and like to create a state of relaxation, like you kind of, I mean, not to say play with yourself, but you got to play with your body, and try to like bring in like these little cues, and you think about things a little bit differently. And like you just said, it's all kind of part of like that somatic experience. I feel like I didn't know that that body awareness thing is something that a lot of people like don't really have control of. They don't really think about that. Um, but then I hear a lot of people coaching that, and I was like, but not everybody knows how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it's like that. The same thing with math. Like, not everybody knows how to do that. Like intuitively. So I love I love how you literally said that. I was like, I wonder why if that's why like bodybuilders like can have a different like they don't give a shit about much else other than like going and lifting weights and then posing in front of the mirror, and they're just like totally content with like I mean, obviously the lifestyle that they lead. Maybe it's part of the flexing and like trying to get that muscle to do the thing in the mirror that leads them to like having increased states of relaxation.
Yeah,
Hmm.
could be.
I'm just trying to put two and two together here.
Yeah. I feel you.
I know this episode has to be a little bit shorter, Katie, given like our time frame with you. But
I can go for like another 25 also.
Okay,
And no one
perfect.
booked, so I'm good.
All right, perfect. So then we don't have to. But we were just trying to be cognizant of that. Okay, first and foremost. So then, if you were to, what's like your favorite person to work with? I mean,
Yeah, that's a
after
great question, Marcos.
all your years of doing this, is there that particular person that you feel like most connected to? Is it like kind of a, damn, I wish I had this thing for myself, that's why I created this thing, kind of person? Or is it just like this person that like you seemingly like, again, like who are we to tell busy executives that run $1 million companies how to go about like creating boundaries for themselves? Obviously they're super successful, and I mean, for me, I feel sometimes like I could be a fraud. I'm just a health coach. I'm just here to like do your diagnostics and just be like your verbal punching bag of all your emotions for a little bit. So who are those people that like you've resonated to constantly?
It's really interesting. When you first asked that question, my immediate answer was working with moms, I think has been my favorite, but I don't really resonate with them because I'm not a mom. So I feel like it's kind of a two-part question because, and I think that the reason I like working with them so much is because I'm literally in awe of them. And
Mm.
I think, like you said, like about the progressive muscle relaxation, like things that we take for granted that are so simple, but that have such a big impact. One example, having a glass of water when you wake up, like to them, they're like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. Like their minds are so consumed with their kids and their jobs and whatever else is going on that like they're not even like I had a client who would drink not even a full water bottle throughout the course of her entire day, and she's up at 5 a.m. and she goes to bed at like 11 p.m. Not even one water. She never even peed throughout the entire day. I'm like, oh my God, that's giving me anxiety to think
Katie,
about it. And so it's like, what? Don't tell me that's you.
no, I love where
You
you're
know
going with
better.
this. I know I do. I love where you're going with this. I actually wanted to ask you something because part of the nervous system, rest, digest, is movement. I mean, it has to be. It has to be. Um, I had a client once. Will not say their name. Woman, mom. I think women have way more digestive issues than guys too, especially around the time of month and
Yes.
certain phases.
Statistically, yes.
Um, she did not use the restroom or poop every other like 2 to 3 days. Do you
I got a
think?
lot of friends
I mean,
like
I don't know.
that.
I don't know if that's exactly like it could be multifaceted, like gut issues, health issues, but like from your coaching and your system, nervous system coaching, like peeing, pooing, like why? I know it's kind of going into the thick of things, but like that's really tied into that, right? Like if they're not doing those things consistently.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I would need so much more information about this poor woman. But I swear, I mean, I have friends who are like, I maybe poop once a week and I'm thrilled about it. And I'm like, I would lose my ever loving mind. But I think a lot of it is if you're so stressed and you're stuck in fight or flight and your body never shifts into that rest or digest, like your body's that's the issue when it comes to stress, right? Is that when your
Yeah.
body detects a threat, it goes into fight or flight, and every other system in your body is deprioritized: digestion, muscle repair, immune function, all of those things. So, like, if digestion is all the way at the bottom of your body's priority list, like, it's just not going to be functioning the way that it needs to.
Yeah.
I think there's probably some other factors at play. Like, I would be curious what her hydration levels are. I wonder if she has
Yeah.
any other like digestive symptoms, things like that. But it definitely
There was.
stress has a systemic impacts
Yeah.
for sure.
There was. I mean, we went deeper into it. And it we went deeper into it, but we basically had some she had some gut irritant issues, so we had to do not an elimination diet, we just avoided certain things with her and then added in a few different things with her training. And then one of the things that I did, I don't know if you do this. Do you do any gut smashing?
No, not yet, at
Ooh,
least.
oh, Marcos. Maybe I might be teaching the shift expert Katie a little something, something here. This
Wow.
is
For
my secrets. This is
for
my
motility,
yeah,
you're talking this from like a
yeah, for
motility.
motility,
Okay.
motility and serotonin upregulation. One of my favorite practices. Katie, like I've, I think I've for being a high performer, I think I can toot my own horn and say that I do the inverse. I think more about recovery than I do about performing. And I say this with all my high performers. I'm like, you're already a Porsche engine. Like you're already like a Bugatti Veyron. Like I know you can go 300 miles per hour. I'm not going to help you with that. I want to help you with like the back end. Do you know how to put on the brakes? Do you know how to be agile? Do you know how to like move and adapt and overcome? And one of the things we did, and I've done this with a lot of women, is gut smashing. So gut smashing is like taking a softball or even a basketball, soccer ball, and just laying on it for about 5 minutes, massaging the gut area, kind of like on the floor. One of my favorites. I will tell you this. I feel high, quote unquote, when I do it because I feel like I'm ready to pass out. I did that just anecdotally with this one woman, both these women, but the one woman with the digestive issues, she said like it helped a little bit. I don't think, I think she had so much more, but like it helped a little bit, where she was more regular daily. But the one that like really helped it out the most was when I had a client who was super high anxiety, who started doing it before bed, and she used to have like sleep problems. And she said, I don't know what happened, but that was like the first time I could get good sleep.
Wow.
That
Okay, again, it's so funny that like I do this myself with a little like small exercise ball and had no idea that there was even a name for it. And it's like so impactful. I just started doing it like
oh
a couple months ago. My
Yeah.
boyfriend's like, "You're fucking nuts. I don't know what's going on in that room." And I'm like, "Listen, your girl has an issue and
listen,
she's solving it."
it's so good. Do you feel euphoric? Do you feel like you're like, dude, what?
Yes. Yes. For
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. I highly recommend it for everyone, like especially um I think for me I was just doing it as like a sleep ritual. Like I want to get good sleep. So I'm just gonna do this like 2 minute thing. All right, I'm getting good sleep, you know? And it's and it
Yeah.
releases like the psoas and the hip flexors. Obviously there's those things, but for me it was just like I felt quote unquote like just very woozy, like ready to go.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
That was like me doing ROMWAD back in my competing days. It's like, yeah, I slept amazing. Body like would wake up limber as hell, ready to go. And then as an adult versus a young adult, I'm like, ain't nobody got time for that. I gotta watch my TikTok for 30 minutes before I go to sleep. Just kidding. I don't watch TikTok. Some Instagram reels, but even then, I'm just like, nah. I'm gonna save this for tomorrow. Um, but the yeah, the gut smashing. The fun fact, I was gonna say this. I think I said this before, but it wasn't with you, Katie. So you can learn this too. The uterus actually is why women tend to have more gut issues than men. The shape of the actual intestines, I have to go around that
Oh.
part of it, and that's what usually leads to that kind of like quote unquote digestional issue in that kind of like spot. Couple that with people then getting like a hiatal hernia and then being a woman, damn, it's just double-edged sword. People had a conversation with this with about this with one of the soccer moms the other day, and I was like, interesting. And then I was like asking her questions about like she was talking about being on like a proton pump inhibitor, a PPI, and then I'm like, interesting, okay, better or worse? Do you even know if you have high or low stomach acid? She's like, that's a thing. I was like, oh goodness. I was like, yes, it is. It sucks that like we always just want to put a band-aid on things and don't want to look at it from, again, a potentially more holistic lens where, again, we see problem and therefore, the Western medical solution is like everything looks like a nail and they are the hammer, you know. So there's definitely more than one way to kind of get to this thing. And shoot, I mean, I've seen it with some of the patients that we've had in the practice I work for in Las Vegas. Massive shifts after like an ayahuasca journey. It was like a spiritual enlightenment moment, and I'm like, interesting. I was like, maybe I need that.
That's a question I was gonna ask Marcos. I was gonna ask Katie. Katie, like a lot of what you're talking about is like internal work, like doing work, understanding your boundaries, looking at your calendar, learning not to say yes to everything, and like or seeing what fits, and then doing breath work, doing the somatic work. That's a lot of like internal work. Like that's the work. Do you introduce anything um like I don't know if like ayahuasca, but like what are your thoughts on like an exogenous thing to introduce, like regulating your nervous system or regulating like your mental stress output in your relationship with it? Do you have any relationships, like whether that be like someone uh
Like
using like
rhodiola, are you
CBD,
talking like
yeah,
rhodiola, ashwagandha,
rhodiola,
holy basil?
ashwagandha, yeah, mushrooms, whatever. Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, don't really have any thoughts on them. I've never been like a supplement or herb person. I feel like, and this is like, I shouldn't make this blanket statement, but I'm going to. I feel like everything we need is within us. And I do think there's a time and a place. Like, there's research to back up rhodiola and ashwagandha. I just feel like, I don't know, as a coach too, I hate being like, oh, go buy this, go buy that, go do this. Like, people sometimes want that. But at the same time, I don't want to be like promoting things that I don't know. I don't know. I think that if people really like took a second, did a body scan, got in touch with like how they're actually feeling, make it a practice, and then, like
Yeah.
I said initially, like proactively managing stress, even if you think you're not stressed, you're still probably a little bit stressed. Like proactively managing it and also reactively, because I think one of the biggest issues with us these days is that we focus so much on the stressors and eliminating those, which is impossible. So that's kind of a fruitless journey in itself. But like,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
also need to process stress physiologically and let it move through a full cycle in our bodies. Like, we often get stuck in the middle stage, which is fight or flight, and we never go all the way around the full cycle. And so I think like the way to do that is anything that gets your body breathing deeply, like most of those somatic
Hmm.
exercises, like even just the progressive muscle relaxation. If you tense for 10 seconds, you're going to
Yeah.
have a long ass exhale at the end of it. Like,
Yeah.
I would be more inclined to refer someone to like a movement instructor or like meditation or mindfulness or something along those lines, as opposed to like a supplemental thing. But that's just
No,
me.
that's a fair statement. I mean,
Valid.
I appreciate that because like what's the quote they say? You have a whole pharmacy within you. Like your central nervous system
Okay,
is your
great.
pharmacy. You can get that in. Um, it's just it's one of those things. It's probably going to be the argument, Katie, with everything. Marcos and I talk about it all the time. For example, weight loss is probably what Marcos and I have done a really great job at with our job, just because that's one of the things that Marcos and I deal with every day. GLP-1s are the Ozempics, the Manjaros, the Zepbounds of the world are very much, semaglutides are very much like prominent right now. I love that you said that because it's, Marcos and I are very agnostic when it comes to supplementation or whatever. We obviously reinforce the health and wellness coaching aspect, the behavior, the lifestyle changes, and these anchors. But who am I to say, you know, hey, if you can offload some of this stuff and you feel like you can. And by the way, the case studies amongst Synergenics, though, as compared to the studies out there on Ozempic, on everything else, we've been doing a great job of making sure that they reinforce the training, the nutrition, so that they don't lose muscle as per the rest of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like I mean it's for me and Marcos and I always go back to like, who am I to say ethically or morally what you should do if you wanted to take a supplementation, whether that is to regulate your nervous system or weight loss. I'm just here to help reinforce, like what you're saying, finish the cycle of the habits,
Mm-hmm.
I
For
gotta
sure.
always try one. I always gotta try everything at least once because I don't feel
Yeah.
like I'm ever an expert at something until I have anecdotal experience with it. I know I have my biases. I know I have certain things that work more for me. Ironically, stuff I have other people do can really work from a coaching blanket, but it doesn't work if I were to be coached by somebody. Kind of a weird thing, you know what I mean? So it's like, I was like, in a perfect world, I would also do this thing. But I just, maybe it's because it is my thing, my system, that I don't want to do it on myself because it's like, it feels weird. But I've actually learned like some of the biggest things that help me with like, again, quote, eliminating stress, right? Like you said, like the elimination of it, or then also dealing with it, is actually like writing things down. So I went back to actually like, but I don't like the stress, like adding a journaling prompt. Like I was telling Seamus this morning, if I have like a prompted journal, I like the idea of it, but I don't actually like it because then it feels like I'm missing
Mm-hmm.
something in my day if I don't do it. And I don't like having that as part of it. So therefore I never do it. And then I bought this blank slated Moleskine.
Moleskin.
Yeah, that's literally just like it's a 1 page is a week, right? So it's like a calendar. But I knew like the number one intent I have for this thing is to write all my training down to see if I'm actually progressively overloading, right? So I'm just actually making sure I'm actually lifting a little bit more and trying to like get something out of this phase. And I felt like lately a lot of things in the last 2 months have been maintenance. It's been a little stagnant. Like workouts are good, socialization's there, but like I need progress again. I want that. But now there's also the second page where it's like kind of free to have some other stuff there, which again is like, to me, it's a part of like maybe a decompression process. I'll write some thoughts down and, what was I thinking about like September of 2024, and just trying to like put that in there. Cause I love those. I mean, I kind of love those like one sentence journals where it's like, what were you thinking of? It's the same question each year for like a 5-year journal. It's like, I'm like, I want to be that person so bad because I like would love to hear like and reflect on those things. And maybe this is just me coming older. Like I like being able to like look back and just be like, I had nothing to say at 31.
Yeah, that's funny. Not yet. Yeah,
but it's a stress reliever. It's like, man, and I'm probably am gonna go back into doing that, Seamus. It's like me calling myself out because I feel like I haven't had that in a while. I want those things there because I think they're fun, they're whimsical. And I had like that epiphany moment where it was like I was like doing different like breathing exercises as I'm like pulling out my old WAD notebook. I'm like sitting there and I was like thinking, I was like, man, like I like put myself back in. I was like, what was my mental state like when all I cared about? I didn't have kids then performing. I was writing these things down. What was I doing? And I literally like, ironically, the thing that connected me back to that moment was like the heavy breathing, how I felt in that moment, like how my breath and my heart was like literally connecting to that moment. And it's like eerie to think about, like I could literally look at a piece of paper and a workout I've done one time 8 years ago, and I can immediately be connected back to like the smell of the floor, where I was, the headspace stuff, like that internal dialogue of that moment, which again is like a very,
it's insane.
It's weird. It's like a relaxing experience for me though. Like when I'm like at the fight or flight thing, like it's calming to be like, man, I got through that shit, and I feel like really calm right now.
Your level of arousal, you're at the, what do they call it? The optimal frontier. Your arousal meets your challenge. You're at the peak, right? So like
maybe
I wanted to ask you, Katie, on the nervous system. Maybe you could talk about this because I've talked about this with like 1 or 2 people. Maybe you could see this, but with the nervous system work and women's work, obviously when you're working with women and just your clients overall, they're telling you like what their goal is, what their desired outcome is. Has anyone ever told you like, I feel my body being pulled in a certain direction? And I'll give you context. Like, I've been talking about training with Marcos. Like, I feel my nervous system, it wants to go. Like, it wants to lift effing hard. I felt like I created like a 9-week base. Shout out Coach Jason. He set me up for success where like with my training, my strength numbers have gone up. All this has gone up. And like, I don't know what happened, but like a shift turned on inside of me where I'm like, I think I've created all these, like these sales are all up. And now I just need a win to like take me. And like now training is like hard. Have you ever seen that like with someone's like nervous system where they're just like, yo, like we've done the work, Katie. I want to pop off. I'm ready to run hot. Like, have you seen that?
That's so interesting. I think that no, because I see people at like a way different, like they're depleted and drained and like have nothing left in the tank and they're trying to fucking crawl themselves out of a hole. But I feel like what because I do understand what you're saying, but I almost feel like it might be like a dopamine situation or something going on for you, where you're like chasing a dopamine high or like something along those lines. Which again, I mean,
trust me, like training has been like something else lately. I've been like crushing. I don't know what it is. Maybe I think maybe I'm just peaking right now. Maybe I did the nervous system work that you've done with your clients. I cleared like the calendar. And like I've cleared and I've like started my boundaries that like I'm like, oh, I got a runway to pop off, maybe I've just done that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I
love it.
It's crazy how much we don't know about like the nervous system, you know what I mean, like the taxing of it, different theories that people have. One of my buddies, CrossFit level 4 trainer, he literally would view like the nervous system. He's like, I think it's all related to grip. So he would like literally program the training to, if he's looking to peak things, it would be grip, knowing he would crush people, even though like the weight may not be all that heavy. And then also learning how to like scale it back relative to like gripping behavior, which I was like, that's an interesting thing. He's like, yeah, like think about it, like trying to hang on, trying to hold on, like you're changing your movement pattern like on the fly if it's slipping and you're in a different part of your grip on like a pull up or all the other components. And he's like, you know, and then when that goes and your forearms are done, like think about how fatigued you are. I was like, that's a really good point. Like nothing worse than literally just like taking 25-pound dumbbells and walking it for a mile, you know, like your hands are just going to be tired. So like that was his, he's like, I try to regulate people's nervous system strain with, you know, knowing where, like what, how much grip work we've done in the week. All right, cool. There's one component. I think I also read a study too about like the recovery, like immediately following high intensity training or a lifting session with breath work and a lot of like advanced lifters to help them again shift into the recovery thing. And people were doing this in an athletic setting. I think also that breathing kind of comes about a little more naturally if you are going into a plunge like we talked about earlier. So I mean, unlocking a lot of things like you just said, like your body really is your own pharmacy. I think we're all kind of aligned in that way. I mean, I know Seamus likes, you know, like dabbling with different things and testing more things out nootropically and seeing how that may or may not affect like his like cognition. But I think for me, same thing, like you just said, I don't want to give people, hey, you just dropped all this money on coaching and this commitment, and here's another $300 you now need to spend to like you make your body feel some type of way. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm totally aligned with that. I usually tell people, hey, like these are things that like over the years have merit, but like there's phases to this. Here's your phase 1 things, which you don't need them day 1. They're phase 1. These are things I want you to look into getting as we go, because here's the study on magnesium and L-theanine for relaxation and sleep quality. You know, here's vitamin D, and here's, you know, and now there's even conflicting research on that. So maybe I won't even recommend it anymore. I don't know. You know, here's creatine. This is going to help your brain and body. And like, again, I try to let people know, hey, like it's okay to not have all these things right from the onset of doing this. But I want you to like educate yourself and do honestly add one thing in at a time. Like, boom, here's like week 1 and 2, here's 2 and here's 3 and 4, right? Which things work? I mean, I've had one instance with magnesium, which I mean, it's been a blanket supplement for people that have like high level athletic performance and recovery, where she was like, I'm sleeping and like groggy. I was like, from magnesium? What? I was like, you sure it's not melatonin? Like M&M? She's like, no, it's magnesium. So she had to cut her dose in half. I was like, so bizarre. But everybody's, you know, you have to, if she had taken everything like the kitchen sink from day 1, she would have never known that that was the thing causing like this, you know, whatever like that, like I mean, overly restful sleep, I guess we could call that. So all those things are really interesting, and how the body again can regulate or shoot. I mean, I feel like I've been doing things for so long. Sometimes I'm sure you feel this way too, Katie, right? Like you're like, yeah, again, doesn't everybody just do that? You know what I mean? It's like, but you've built this really simplistic but elegant system for, well, all of us have for ourselves that work really well. And then people come to us like, what is like, you know, what are you doing? What are you taking? What's going on? And I'm like, oh yeah, like I forget, like this is me taking 10 plus years of experience and like, you know, quote unquote being the cheat code for a lot of people. You know, you can get them to feel really good really quickly. So
yeah,
I think
Katie, I want to finish up here, just we're over an hour and I think want to be on time. One last question, so random. Do you ever just like shake it out like a dog? Like, you know,
all the
like
time.
how...
It's my literal go-to stress relief. I do it. I did it right before we got on this call. I do it multiple times a day.
Why is that so powerful? Can you tell me why that's like, dogs get hit in the face, they get a ball thrown at them, they break a, you know, like they hit the wall or something, and then it's like, oh yeah, just shake it off. And they just shake it, they just shake, and then like they're happy again. Like what is that? What is that?
I don't know what it is about dogs. I just know that it you complete the stress cycle when you do it, because if you bounce up and down enough and shake it out, like you're going to be breathing deeply and it's going to get you into a sympathetic state. We do it like at open, which is like the yoga studio that I work at, it's mixed modality, but we do a full minute of just shaking it out in the very beginning to then get our heart rate up, and then we do a little bit of cardio and whatever. Anyways,
Yeah.
it is by far my favorite. I dare you to try it and tell me that it doesn't work next time you have
I
something
do it.
stressful coming up.
I do it like a
Okay, good.
weirdo. Like someone like makes me feel stressed. I'm like, no, that was weird, and then I just like shrug my body and like I'm like, I'm not taking that, so I just kind of like shake it and like
Yes.
send it away. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
It's kind of
transfer
weird,
it back to the
but
other person.
I'm like,
I love
oh,
it.
that's all you. Um, this is such a. I feel like this conversation is just such a opening conversation. Obviously, we're gonna do a part 2, but like, I feel like for the people listening, like, this is something that is not really talked about or really condensed in a coaching way. And I think I love the fact that you're doing that with people. You know, being a coach and like seeing this part of health in this niche of like helping women who are burnt out. Like, dang, like that is powerful because these people are probably doing something important in their lives. They're raising their families, or they're running companies, or helping run companies, or whatever. And it's like they want to do more of what they want to do, but they just need a helping hand, you know, to do that for longer. And they just need someone else to kind of come in there and just go like, here's some guidelines, and just kind of work through that, and you'll find it. But let's do this. Any last closing words, Katie? Where can people find you? What's your program like? And yeah, basically just that, and we'll end it here.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. It's at Shift with Katie. Right now, I have a 3-month Burnout to Balance program. It's a one-on-one health coaching program. We'll go over all the things that we talked about, but the big selling point is that it's personalized to you, your unique lifestyle, and your obstacles. We'll figure out how to overcome them, how to build like lifestyle changes as opposed to trendy habits and things like that. We're working in the long term. Um, like I said, my client base is primarily women. I think oftentimes men are potentially, and I don't hate me for saying this, but I think men sometimes are less willing to admit when they're struggling and when they're burnt out and when they're overwhelmed, because they're just, and culturally and societally too, it's like they've been told to just like hide their emotions and not express how they feel and not say that they're stressed and whatever the case may be. So the point is that if you are struggling, male or female, support is out there through me or through any of the other coaches. My website, shiftwellnesscollective.com. That's about it. I'm so grateful we got to do this. I had so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Marcos, anything else, man?
No. I mean, I feel like, that again, knowing that like, yes, it may be targeted towards women, but that men can get a lot from it. I totally agree. I think the statistic is like, I mean, men just don't have, once it's like, again, you're dealing with the woman counterpart of that and their stress and having kids. The male counterpart of that family dynamic is that man, I know this, like, we have a very small circle of people that we generally even hang out with or talk to, and it feels very isolating at times. So having other things that can help you deal with that struggle, and getting yourself to feel more cool, calm, and collected, and not dealing with stress, maybe opens you up to, again, expanding beyond like that 5-person friend group or whatever it is. And I think a lot of men, especially men with children, could really benefit from. I know that I'm speaking for all dads here. All dads are burnt out. Like, just it is what it is, right? We're burnt out because we don't know how to deal likely with our wives and the emotional toll that they take with having kids. I'm just being honest. So if there's a way for them to combat that, and again, maybe it is breath work, maybe it's something that again needs a little bit more of that personalized thing and your expertise, I would definitely like recommend that, because I know that like I feel pulled to like have someone like you in my corner. Just it doesn't meet the budget right now, and that's another thing too. That I think men are going to be less likely to kind of engage in that, but maybe there is options, and you could be a point of reference and refer them to other people if they can't afford you as well, because men are struggling, women are struggling. I mean, hell, like we know this from the NBHWC, like we're dealing with like a mental health epidemic, and so the more things we bring aware and to light to help with stress, I think will be really helpful for so many people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Katie, Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for blessing the audience. I think this is a conversation that will open so many doors. Hopefully, the right people come in and work with you after getting to be with the audience. I think a lot of people resonate with that, man and woman alike. Um, with that being said, I'm looking forward to connecting soon again in person, all these things. But macro perspective peeps, comment below, share this episode, especially if someone is struggling in your life and you know that they need to set some boundaries and work on regulating their nervous system. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys later.